Happy Absolute Saturday, Comic Geeks, and welcome back to the Script Heroes podcast. Today we are going through the issues 4 of DC's Absolute Universe. That's Absolute Wonder Woman, Absolute Batman, and Absolute Superman. These are going to be full spoiler discussions as we talk about what goes on in the books, how we feel about them, and of course, how their contents translate into our arbitrary Final Fantasy. No, I do it every time. Fantasy football. In my defense, I have even more reason to have Final Fantasy on the brain after this Wonder Woman.
True.
Right? But yes, we have our scoring system here where we are going to be assigning fantasy football stats to these heroes. I have a team this week, as does Jay, as does a bot that
Saying we
created.
all have teams this week of all weeks is a little bit, rough because I believe you were the only person who even had more than one character show up this.
That's
this
fair,
week.
but it's still a pretty big points week.
It was a wild week in terms of
actual appearances.
Yeah, characters not showing up.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, to just quickly walk through the scoring here, you get a point for an appearance. That's why we were specifically talking about appearances right there. Then every fight you win or lose, you either win or lose 5 points, depending on if you win or lose the fight. And then if multiple characters are on each side, points get divided, and they get multiplied for more people, or at least more big characters. So if, two superheroes fought two supervillains, it'd be 10 and 10 on each side, and then winners would get 5 and 5. We also then have civilians saved / killed. The bottom barometer, 1 through 3, gives you 1 point, 4 through 6 gives you 2, and 7+ gives you 3 points. A supervillain thwarted, that's that big old final, knockdown. That's not the right term. Is going to be a big +10 points. Named character saved is going to give you +2 points. Mob fight 1 is going to give you +3. And gaining a role of power, this is mainly for villains, becoming like the new gang leader or, something like that. You're going to get +7.
Yeah.
That's our total thing. But do you want to start us off with your team for this week, Katie?
Yes. My team this week, I have Diana of the Wilds, Wonder Woman herself. We have Jim Gordon and Brainiac. We each have a main titular hero, another hero choice, and then a villain choice. Jay, what's your team look like this week?
So I've got Batman as my main titular hero. I also then have Alfred, and for my villain, important to note, as I usually do at this point, that we drafted before knowing anything about these books. So my villain is Hades this week, which I unspoilerly got closer than I thought I was going to get this week.
You sure did. But we talked about your hesitance to put Peacemaker on your team with where we were at in the Absolute Superman book. So, Hades still felt like the right pick. And then our bot, we fill in the team.
Not actually once you get through. Well,
I think that it would have. I think it would have come down in, at the very least, evened out, if not negative.
I think it would have been maybe just like that one appearance point I might have ended up getting.
Okay, maybe so.
At the end there.
But the bot team we fill in every week. Every month, with the previous month's kind of bench. So when we see a character pop up, and we're like, okay,
plus their titular hero, which
is Superman. But this month, Team Superman has Lara L from the Superman book and Hamilton Hill from the Batman book, which didn't go so great for him this week.
No, like I said, you're the only person who had more than one character actually show up this week. And I believe one of your characters literally just showed up this week in terms of scoring.
In a single panel.
It's mainly a titular hero kind of week. Or kind of month, rather. I did the same thing. Yeah, kind of month. Where it's mainly just gonna be straight up Batman versus Superman versus Wonder Woman this month. So
And we've got kind of 3 different approaches with the 3 of them, I think, interestingly.
It's very interesting. But
without further ado, let's hop right in. We're going to start off with Absolute Wonder Woman this week.
Are we?
Are you ready? Yeah. Right?
No.
So I'm doing Superman?
Yeah, we've never done it like that, though. We always do them in release order.
Oh, Well, never mind. We're starting off with Absolute Batman then.
So sorry about that. But
Harsh
this
in my
is how you know
groove.
we don't do takes or anything on this. It's just wild shit. But yeah, so Absolute Batman, the usual creative team is Scott Snyder with Nick Dragotta on art. This week we have Scott Snyder, Nick Dragotta on plot. Scott Snyder writing the script, and artist Gabriel Hernandez Walta takes over the art duties. So yeah, very interesting. As we get sort of what was advertised as a year one flashback type of issue.
Yes.
But yeah, let's get right into it. The Absolute Batman ones tend to be a little bit more dense, so
yes, they do.
It's best to just get into them and start going. And we'll talk about points and stuff as they come up, kind of as we go scene by scene and hitting the breaks here. So we open with Bruce as a young child, right after the death of, or at least soon after the death of his father. He's in a courtroom at the stand where we learn that he is asked to make a statement before Mr. Chill makes his. And I think right there, I get my Batman appearance.
You get your Batman appearance point. You're doing
there we go. I'm winning.
You're winning.
Then we jump forward. And this is going to be very confusing because everything in this book is in the past, but there's 3 distinct time periods in the past that we are jumping between. So I'm going to do my best to keep this clear. But this is our year 1. So when we're in this, I'm going to refer to this as year 1. This is the early Batman time period. And we jump there where a gang is extorting some people on a rooftop, and when a woman refuses to pay protection money to this gang, they push her off the roof. But then she comes flying back onto the roof, and suddenly a young, much thinner than we used to, Batman sporting claws, fangs, and a pistol appears. He takes out the entire gang without much difficulty, and the scene ends with him pointing his pistol at the last man remaining.
There's a point there for saving the civilian who's thrown off the building. And I think this is 5 points. We see, I believe, 3 people.
Yeah, I want to quickly. I was looking. We see. I just want to quickly look. Yeah, it's 1 through 3, not 1 through 3. I think he saves 3 civilians if you want to look at it, but that's still in the bottom tier.
I think that I don't know that this was a directly saving civilians. The one woman was thrown off the roof.
The other ones are being intimidated, but yeah, I think this is a mob fight. 1.
No, it's not. There are 3 people.
That's a mob. There's a mob, and there was more than. I think there was. Let me look.
I'm pretty sure there are 3 people.
There are 5 of them. There are 5 of them. Go to that second panel. Go to the second panel of the first page of the rooftop. There are 5 of them.
I'm examining.
There are 5 of those fuckers. Go right there. There are 5. Count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
He very clearly is only taking out 3 people here. This is not a mob fight.
No, it's a montage. It's a montage. She takes out the 5 of them. He
only deals with 3 people.
I promise you, I'm going to be fair when we come back to this scene. Give me the mob fight here, and I won't fight you on the next bit.
What next bit would you even fight me on?
You'll see.
This is not a mob fight.
This is a mob fight. There's 5 of them. There's 5 of those fuckers.
Check out the very next page. 2 people are still shooting at him. He only defeats 3 people.
Those people very specifically come out of the thing, right? Let me look. I'm pretty sure they come running out.
Defeat 3 people.
That's how montages work. You don't see the hero taking out everybody. It's a thing.
This is not a mob fight. We have had such a different scale for mob fights before.
This is a mob fight.
This is not a mob fight.
This is a good old year 1 mob fight. There are 5 of them.
Absolutely
1 of them. This is some bullshit. Fine. When we come back, though, I'm. You know what? You're losing points compared to if you just rolled with me here.
I'll be prepared to make bargains later, but this is so not a mob fight.
Well, no, there's no bargain anymore. You gave it up here. You gave it up, and then it's gonna come back to bite you.
We'll see.
But anyway, we go back to when Bruce is a kid in the time before his this time before his father died.
Yes.
This is the 3rd time period of the 3 that we jump between. And we see him working on the Bat Bridge that we know eventually wins him this award, which is why they were at the zoo, all of that. But his father is weirdly concerned that his bridge is big and thus intimidating.
Intimidating?
It's
Yeah.
because the bridge ends up being a metaphor for like how he goes about being Batman throughout this. But it's very
It's
weird
a
how
weird
upset his
metaphor.
father is that, you know, his bridge is too big and intimidating.
Look, I'm
But Bruce
normally
takes this to
such a
heart.
Scott Snyder girly. I love his writing generally. This whole flashback within the flashback was a little too much for me. The way
The
that the two of them were
three
interacting.
things were like a lot,
See,
especially because we kept having like the narration for or like the dialogue of one put over another as we then cut to the third. I was like,
and I think my problem with it is specifically that I think you could get away from that if this like farthest back segment wasn't so odd. Like if everything was very like kind of
well, it's because it's the amount of dialogue needed for this consistently
Yeah.
goes over the other ones as they continue this conversation.
Yeah, it's super weird. Super duper odd.
But in any
Yes,
case,
we have the start of our metaphor.
yeah. We then jump back to the year 1 timeline where more men run out with guns and they chase Batman off, and then we jump forward to seeing him throwing away his face paint, his voice distorter, fake
His
fangs, and a gun, all into like this bonfire type in a can, you know, like the homeless person fire type vibe. Which also, like, the voice distorter thing was weird because there was no way for us to know he had a voice distorter before this. I also didn't know he had face paint before this either. Like,
Me either.
Anyway.
Like, I feel like they could have done the contacts because his eyes were bright red.
Yeah. Would have made more sense.
And, like, honestly, I feel like just the fangs and the gun would have been fine.
Yeah, no, that, because those are the only things that they, like, give specific panels to him throwing away. Because clearly those are, like, the more important beats here, but they just wanted like more things, I guess. And I think each of these things are from like a different year 1 interpretation of Batman. Like the guns from the Golden Age, the fangs are from like Batman 1000. There's a like, I know that there's that like
Justice League Gods and Monsters.
There's like a year 1 thing where Batman was like almost pretending to be a vampire and like had fake fangs. I know that's
I do love that he had a paralytic in the fangs. Like, what an inconvenient way to defeat someone.
Yeah, no, rough. But anyway, we then jump to a montage of him doing research, lifting weights, and doing like, you know, some engineering, forging, very Iron Man-y little moment there. We then he then kind of tells us about, because I was gonna say he like learns about, but it's more of him actually like telling us that he's done this research, that there is a pipeline from Florida called the Orange Blossom Special, which is responsible for 80% of the illegal weapons coming into Gotham, and presumably also a large percentage of the like illegal pills and drugs. That didn't get into the 80% line, but it's also kind of there.
Yeah, because they talk about how like a lot of this stuff is legal in Florida, so they transport it up to Gotham.
Yeah, which was a little bit of a weird vibe because I don't think like more drugs and guns are typically legal in the same parts of the U.S. Like that's usually an opposite things. But
well, I mean, Florida's not really near Gotham.
No, I just mean like, on a politics standpoint, places that allow more drugs usually don't allow guns.
Oh,
and places that allow guns usually don't. Like, those are opposite ends of the political spectrum.
Here's the thing,
so I just thought that was weird.
I think he chose Florida very specifically. He's like, it's a lawless wasteland.
Yeah, but aren't they pretty... I think they're harsh on drugs in Florida, aren't they? Like, I think
Clearly
weed's still legal in Florida.
I
Okay.
have no idea.
In any case, like, I think they're one of the harsh ones on that. It doesn't really matter. I just found that funny, where I was like, it feels like those should be coming from the same place based on that logic, but whatever. But the Mahoneys and the Falcones, some name drops here, run checkpoints, and every month the hot point shifts from one of these checkpoints to another to avoid them being raided, and this is because they know when the raids are coming due to them being connected to the companies in Gotham. Corruption in Gotham, very, very standard stuff here. Very classic stuff here. We then get what is maybe just the best scene of this issue.
Right?
As Batman drives his little RC Batmobile.
Which, to be clear, is like... It doesn't look like a hokey little toy car. It looks
exactly
like the Batmobile,
like his Batmobile
coming out of the dust.
It's so funny. But he controls his RC car as he literally stands in front of this giant truck coming at him. He activates the RC car while it's underneath the truck, and it shoots up a jack and just flips this giant truck, where Batman then takes out the drivers and gang members.
Absolutely rad.
This one I was just going for a normal fight one for
This
Batman.
one I also have as a normal fight one, so that's 5 points.
Yeah.
But yeah, super duper cool.
I love that
Absolutely
scene.
love this.
That was awesome.
This
I
is
also
far
really
away
like
my
that
favorite
suit variation, because we see Batman go
Right?
through multiple suit variations. I quite like this one. It's got a good vibe to it. It's honestly very Dark Knight Returns-esque.
It is.
A Batman suit, which is a good vibe. I think that's a good Batman suit vibe. He's got his pouches. Love them.
Right? We love the pouches. I think that they also did a really good job of choosing where to show these different suits. Like, a rooftop was the perfect place for this, like, kind of vampire thing, where it's, like,
Agreed.
a bunch of shadow and spookiness. I feel like in the fucking high beams of a semi-truck, this suit looks absolutely so cool. Like,
That's
having
such a
the
good
gray base of it is, I think, something that could have, looked maybe less cool on a rooftop, or if you were in that vampire suit, it would have looked ridiculous with, like, the spotlight on it. So they did a really good job of, like, choosing where to drop these looks in.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. That was a really good point that I didn't really think about, but it's absolutely true in the way that the suits end up coming across. But anyway, we go back to the earlier child Bruce in the bridge scene with his father. He's created a new version of the Bat Bridge, and this one, instead of being intimidating, is adjustable. It's got a few different bits where you can, like, expand, adjust, all that stuff. Good stuff. And then Batman's technically true. Bruce's father starts telling him that it's about getting to the core of what a bat really is. Again, it makes so much sense if they were actually talking about Batman, but because they're talking about the bridge, it comes across a little bit weird. And then his father goes into this story of I'm just gonna finish off this scene, and then you can jump in here. Bruce's father explains that he once wanted to be a heart surgeon. There's your tie to kind of how he even actually, in a little bit on the nose, talks about maybe I was in another life, like a little. Okay, Scott. Yeah. But due to his father, and this was due to his father dying of a heart attack. But when Bruce's mother got pregnant, he decided against applying to med schools and became a teacher. And talked about how that's actually how he gets to help people have a better life before they die, even if he can't stop them from dying.
I feel like one of my big gripes with these scenes as well is Bruce's emotions don't make a ton of sense to me here. Like, I feel like
Bruce's father's emotions make even less sense to me here.
See, at least I understand why I'm bamboozled by him. I'm like, I get what you're trying to do here with Thomas. It's like, his role here is to push this metaphor. I feel like whenever we see Bruce here, he, like, is... I don't know what he's gathering from this metaphor. I think because it's so not applicable to the bridge. Vibe. Right?
It's weird.
Like, especially on this one, he's, like, glaring at a little rock in his hand. It's like, Bruce, what the fuck?
I think the issue is the actual part of the metaphor, which is where we come back to in the end, that worked the best was the fact that this experiment was apparently due to, like, wherever they were, there was, like, you're supposed to be working under the thing of, like, oh, there was a disaster, and this is, like, supposed to help. And that's where it's like, oh, these people are struggling, and they need help. Like, that's the part of the metaphor that actually would have been more, like, applicable to Batmaning, but we're so on the bridge that it feels so weird that Bruce is so weird, angry and vengeful in these young scenes. It's a
they're weird. They're weird scenes, but that scene is over, and we go back to the court.
Yeah, we jump back to Bruce giving a statement in the courtroom, and this is I'm gonna keep this in each timeline, even though they very intersect here, because otherwise I think trying to summarize this is going to be impossible. Yeah, so I'm going to start with the courtroom scene, and then I'll tell you guys what happened, like intercut with the courtroom scene. So we jump to Bruce. He's giving a statement in the courtroom. He explains how happy he was seeing his father proud of him in the zoo, and it's kind of touching. But then he turns full evil child as he says that Mr. Chill killed this happiness forever, and shouts at Chill in what is very unfortunately censored, saying that he fucking hates him.
Yeah.
Which is just brutal.
It is. Like this fucking 11-year-old, this 9-year-old, whatever he is. I like to think because of the censor, I like to think that it's something else. It's like, I shitting hate you, Mr. Chill. I damn hate you, Mr. Chill. They can't tell me I'm wrong. They censored it.
You're right. They can't. There's another. I don't think it's in this one. There's another censor somewhere. Maybe it was in this one, in one of the books where it was like, it was what was it? It was like shithole. It was like saying something was a shithole, I think.
Yeah.
And I just, because it was hole in the front was censored, I just read it as asshole, and I was like, that makes no sense in the context.
DC, these are supposed to be this is like the universe where Darkseid won. Let Bruce
They
say
all
fuck.
say 13 plus on the cover. Like, they could drop some curses. They ain't gonna kill
Kids
anybody.
know the word fuck, I promise. They say
But
it on accident during Youth D&D all the time.
They almost called the book. Scott Snyder wanted to call the book Batman AF, and he says Batman AF at one point. So, like, just in any case.
Goodness. Anyway.
In the middle of this scene, we get dialogue of Bruce talking to his father about the bridge. He says that he figured out the bridge, and this serves as him a metaphor for him also figuring out Batman in the year one, timeline. He's figured out that the bridge is all about the people who were actually hurt by this disaster. This leads to him deciding that the bridge should be both intimidating and adaptable, which is like our big takeaway here. And while we're told this, we see year one Bruce creating his like grappling technology, and then we cut to young Bruce.
Super cool. I loved that.
It was super cool. It was very nice. I thought that was rad. Because the way that like attaches his hand and everything, I really like the way that was drawn too. Like you get all the specifics of it. It's very nice. We then see young Bruce showing his father his final bat-shaped bridge, which can also fly wildly, and then maybe with the weirdest beat, he's also put buzzsaws inside of this bridge for some reason.
I think that was a little joke. I think that was a little goof.
But
then Thomas Wayne like goes along with it, so it's like, is it a goof? What the fuck?
Yeah,
also,
because then he says like maybe too much is good these days, and Bruce says maybe too much. And I'm like, again, you lost me in the metaphor because makes sense when talking about Batman. Doesn't make sense with Bridge.
No.
Bridge having buzzsaws? Why?
Also, just to, I think, throw a crumb of reason in here, I don't think the bridge literally flies. I think that he's saying the bridge is like lightweight enough that it can drop from a plane, which is, I think, important. I don't think the bridge literally flies.
He does talk about dropping it. I think it like glides in the Batman way, you know, like it,
sure,
that was the vibe I got of like, oh, it'll like glide down into place.
But it's real weird because like
it's weird.
I feel like we touched on we've seen the bridge rather before in I think multiple of the previous things.
Yeah, it's been talked about in most of the things when we've had flashbacks. It's usually brought up in some way, shape, or form.
And like it was brought up in very kind of like nebulous ways, and like, oh yeah, Bruce won this genius contest with this bridge. And it's like, okay, I believe that. And now they're talking about the bridge, and I'm like, wait a minute, is Bruce fucking stupid? This makes no sense.
It's like, is Bruce stupid? A genius? A sociopath? All of them?
They're telling me he's a genius. And I believed it when I just like saw the bridge from afar. And it's like, oh yeah, this bat-shaped bridge somehow is really good at being a bridge. And now they're going more into the nitty-gritty of the bridge, and I'm like, what the fuck am I reading? What does this mean?
Let me cap off the ending of this issue. We can then give our overarching thoughts before we jump to
Wonder Woman.
We jump to Wonder Woman. But yeah, we see Batman in his now more final form, watching a charity ball. He's there for this man named Randall Powers, who owns the trucking conglomerate that Maronis and Falcones were using to run these drugs and weapons. But while he's there listening to this ball, he hears all these corrupt individuals making shady deals, and he, in a really cool note, decides that he's actually coming for them all.
Yeah.
And then the issue ends kind of following up on the last beat that we had in the previous issue, and we see Bruce going to to meet with Chill in prison.
Yes.
What
a wild ride! Like,
I thought this issue was actually phenomenal whenever we weren't on the bridge. I was like, I don't know what the bridge is, and I don't like when like the text of it's on other things. The rest of this really cool advancement of how this Batman like progressed
to be
courtroom Bruce, terrifying in the best way. I love creepy child post parents death Bruce who's like, I'm gonna make this world fucking pay. I know I'm a child who can't do it yet, but it's gonna fucking happen. I love that. That's fucking awesome. It's just the bridge that's weird in this. Everything else in this issue, fantastic. The RC car, new favorite, like Batman random item that makes like no sense moment.
I will say something that did kill me with the RC car is he goes through what he did with it, like packing it full of the jack and stuff. There's like not even $1,000, and I'm like, okay, I like that is impressive. It's a really important jack, but I do feel like with this Bruce, I could have gone with like, the car didn't even cost me $20 or something. I'm like, once we get up to $1,000, it's like, where are you getting that, Bruce? But yeah, no, super duper cool. There. It was also one of my favorites. It was just that one line that made me laugh.
The RC car where he says that like his explanation for how it works is like this. I'm looking for the thing. 4600 kV, and that sounds like it's like a thing. If you Google that, it's like not. Like nothing comes up that would explain what this is.
Oh my gosh! I was like, now I need to Google it.
Like I was like, oh, like because like when I was writing what it did, I was like trying to look up what was actually like shooting out of it. And I assumed that was going to be
here we go.
Thing.
So it's in the equation that describes the resistive force acting on an object moving through a medium. The K is a constant, and the V is velocity. So F equals kV. So I'm assuming that whatever it means is in reference to that. But also, the takeaway of this is we don't need this Batman to explain stuff. We don't need him to explain
because that was the rougher part, but it was still great. And I really like the final Batman moment of him being like, I was here for this guy, but actually I'm fucking coming for all you fuckers.
I love that. And I feel like that's such a good Batman mentality of like, oh, there's injustice. I'm going to take all of it on now.
Yeah, especially in Gotham. It's like, I need to fix all of Gotham. Like, that's such Batman vibes there.
Yeah,
and, so overall, really love this issue the way that I've been loving all of Absolute Batman. I do, I think that there's something to be said about making such a big art style change in a series like this. And also, like, just the idea of doing the flashback issue as issue 4, I think is maybe not the best.
It's a little early. It's a little early.
Yeah, it's a little early. But overall, great issue.
Yes, absolutely agree. And my argument is that you're coming away from this with a plus 12. We'll see if you can eke that plus 15 out of me.
I'll take the plus 12. You see, like I said, you screwed yourself. If you would just listen to me, I would have had less points right now. And I'm not telling you how, but I
would have argued that you get the fight in the tunnel, because that's the only thing I can assume.
No, that's not. No, you see, I'll tell you once we wrap, so you can't like
clearly
try
you're
to screw me.
alluding to him losing something then.
And we're gonna move on. I don't think
that he lost anything in the book at all.
We're gonna move on because I'll take the plus 12.
There you go.
Wait,
but that's plus... 5 per fight, civilian saved, and appearance.
Civilian saved is what I had forgotten. There
when he yoked her back up onto the roof, which also a great Batman style moment.
That was really funny, and then he comes from the other side of the roof though,
which was weird. I was like, expected him to like yeet up after. But...
Yeah, I thought he was just gonna like come flying up, and he just came from the other way, and I was like, where did you? Huh?
See, and we've talked a lot about Batman. Let's jump over to Wonder Woman.
A lot about Batman.
Yes.
Let's talk about Wonder Woman, yeah.
Yes, so Gateway City has been put under the effects of a deafening spell to keep the Tetraside's horrible cry from luring the entire population to their death. We open on a pair of strangers here, Etta and Gia, who we learn very quickly are friends of Steve Trevor's, because Diana needs the power of witchcraft to restore herself, and Steve Trevor brings her to Etta, who is, throughout this entire encounter, stunned by the presence of Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman is there, so that is a point for her appearance. She teases
Yes.
Steve a bit about how she like thought that his stories about Wonder Woman were overblown, and he's like, no, see, she is as cool as I was saying,
Yeah,
which
I think
does.
this just yeah, I was just want to like I think this book is playing on a very fine line between like the show don't tell and just telling us
Yeah,
too often how cool Diana is. It's like I see it. I know she's cool. It feels less cool the more you have characters around her constantly say that she's
right.
cool.
And that's what I was about to say, because like I think that it worked really well with Minerva with Cheetah last issue, because she like, you know, studies the Amazons and is like, oh my god, you're Wonder Woman. And
Yeah.
so like I understand her being dumbfounded. I understand Steve being dumbfounded because like he's in love with her and she saved his
Yeah.
life multiple times. But like she's not even really doing anything here. She's just like
She's
vibing, getting
there.
her ingredients.
Yeah, they
And
make a
Edda's
really
like,
big deal over her saying something that's like somewhat nice. Like she says that
right?
like the woman works for herself, and she's like, "Oh my god, you're like the kindest heart in the world." I was like, "Oh,
Ugh.
okay."
Yeah, it's really weird because we very much are jumping ahead of ourselves here, but
Yeah,
I
yeah,
love the way that Diana is characterized in this book. I think that she's super fun. I really like her. It's the way that other people respond to her that is
yeah.
weird to me. Like
Full
I have
agree.
no problems with Diana herself. It's just the people around her.
It's
Um,
just it's leaning a little bit too much into like everybody loves her and thinks she's like great, and it's like that's
but it's also like it's not everybody. It's just the like important characters, which is like a
yeah,
weird distinction because like
yeah.
we had all of the military people not liking her, but then she got
Yeah,
like her and everyone clapped moment with the
yeah.
general.
I guess it's like it's that it kind of lives too much in the extremes where like
Mhm.
people are never like a little it's like oh these are these military people who go so stereotypical military bad. Wonder Woman shows and she's like so in power in that scene too. She's never like
Right?
off. Nobody's like gotten her off of her like game or anything. She goes in there,
Exactly.
she dresses them all down, and all that like she just when it comes to character interactions has never like even slightly
No.
struggled with one,
No.
which I think is
Which
a little rough.
especially for someone who was raised by one woman on an island in hell. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like one of the ways that you could have really differentiated this Wonder Woman is yes, she is very kind, but also maybe she's fucking awkward as shit. Because
She's somehow more like able to deal with the quote
yeah,
unquote world of man than the normal Wonder Woman.
which is wild. But in any case,
Yeah, please,
Diana
please.
needs
Don't let me
she
keep
needs
ranting.
witchcraft so that she can restore herself. Luckily, Gia, the sister of Edda, practices witchcraft, and Diana is able to get ingredients like the skin of Prometheus and deadly hemlock and black walnut, as well as blood donations from all three of her friends, which was a wild thing to not show.
Yeah.
I have some thoughts at the end of the book, but I'm gonna keep running through it real
Yeah, me
quick.
too. Me too.
But we see that using these magical components, Diana is able to resummon her arm, which is
In
when
such a cool page.
in such a cool page. Hayden Sherman can do no wrong in my eyes.
The
And
layouts in this issue went even harder than this series has usually went, which is a wild thing to say.
and like I feel like there are not there's not like a huge group of artists where I'd be able to say like, oh, based on their layouts I know who this is. Like there are, there's a few, like I think
Like
Greg
if you blacked out all
Smallwood.
the panels and you just
Exactly,
saw
yeah.
like yeah.
But specifically with this book, like you could pull up any page of it and anyone who's read it will be able to be like, yeah, that's absolute Wonder Woman, because it
Yeah.
all is so distinct on there. And realizing, as I was saying, Hayden Sherman, I didn't say it at the start. Hayden Sherman is the artist on this book, and the writer is Kelly Thompson, which I'm also reminded of because this is when we get to like the title splash. All that happened before that. But so she brings back her magical arm, which is great. And then we jump back in time, back to Diana's childhood, but we're focused on Circe, her surrogate mother, who is basically being, I don't know, read by Hecate. Oh no, not Hecate. I always
Hecate.
say that. Hecate. this is taking me back to like everything that I loved about the Percy Jackson
You
books,
made
and
me
then
just wonder if I've been pronouncing it wrong. Like when I
no,
was like, is this one
no.
of those words that just looks nothing like how it's pronounced, and I'm just an idiot?
No, it's one of those things where I read it wrong as like a 7-year-old reading Percy Jackson, and now it will
Yeah.
never fix in my brain.
Oh, I have some of those from Percy Jackson for
Oh
sure.
yeah, oh yeah. Like, let me tell you, the worst Possedian for me.
Oh no!
Look, just the letters got a little scrambled. But we get a really awesome reveal as Hecate is talking to Cersei, and she's like in her massive goddess form. And I absolutely love that. And basically we've learned that Hecate is kind of pulling the strings of the fate of not only Diana, but like kind of the world itself, it seems, as she's basically setting Diana up a la Dumbledore style to be a hero for everyone. We jump back to the present. Diana is covered in blood, which I did love that. Like, I love that. Hey, by the way, Diana, you should not have a pint of blood on your face. And they're like, oh, thank you. I will get that off of there. Because I think that that's one of those moments where I'm like, yeah, this is a weirdo who was raised in hell. Like, she's not going to be weirded out by having a bunch of blood on her face. She was raised in hell. But this is when we get that odd interaction where Anna's like, I'm a private investigator. And Diana's like, how nice. You work for yourself. And she's like, that's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me. But unfortunately, the Tetracide has advanced. The deafening spell that Diana cast last issue has stopped everybody from hearing it, so they have not gone to the Tetracide, so the Tetracide is going to them. Using more of her magic, Diana lures it back with what is a really rad page. She basically has a bomb with the screams of fear inside of them.
Yeah,
I think that's what that is.
It's and no, I mean like that. It's like because she says something along the lines of like be what it. I felt like be what it most craves. So like I think it's like a bottle of desires or something like that. I guess, and like for the Tetracide that ends up being screams. It's it's an interesting thing. I don't know how that would work.
But a really
but also she says it to it. So I don't know if like the bottle is that or if the bottle is like something she's using to cast a spell and like she said
the magic in the book is a little
the magic system in this book is a little
throws for a loop. But a really cool page that's like huge lettering of these like screams of terror. And the Tetracide moves back out into the ocean. Diana casts more magic on her already huge Buster Sword and makes it basically the size of a skyscraper, which she uses to almost say pretty effortlly bisect the Tetracide.
Yeah, I love that page too. I like the like we even get like a close up of her like with her shoulder and then she cuts it like a paper cutter.
Kind of like and I think this is very much a supervillain thwarted here. It is the Tetracide.
Yeah.
That is 10
very
points
much
for Diana.
It's just interesting to me that it happened in the penultimate
Me too.
issue.
Yeah.
Because I'm worried that they're going to give you another supervillain in the next issue. Which
I would be thrilled if they did, but I think that this definitely counts.
No, you're absolutely right. I'm a little annoyed that it happened in the penultimate issue for you.
I don't think that she's going to get another villain to thwart, personally.
No, but that right there is 15 points and 1 kill for you there. So that's
only 11 points.
Because you get it's like the mob fight.
I also get the fight 1.
You get the fight 1.
Oh,
yeah, you get
you
get your big up. So you get 15 on just that one kill right there. So that puts you at
and just to cap it off, it seems that everything is going to be okay now because she killed the Tetracide. Great. Turns out now the government doesn't like her. So she took care of the Tetracide, and now the White House sees her as a threat. So this was an odd issue, I thought.
Yeah.
Specifically,
I agree.
Like, content-wise, like, the speed of content, it felt like both way too much happened, and we focused way too much on the wrong thing. Like, I think part of it is because I love Hayden Sherman's art so much, but they have pretty low panel counts, and they don't, like, move very quickly through scenes. so even like the scene with Cersei and Hecate, I think that ended up being like 4 pages. And
Yeah.
it probably didn't need to be 4 pages. The whole thing with the like getting the components and stuff, I really liked the pages themselves, but I feel like in this book specifically, it was like, okay, if we're gonna defeat the
Yeah,
supervillain at the end of this issue, we gotta be moving a little quicker so that we can get
agreed.
more
It because
going.
it comes we show up with these characters we never heard of before
Mm-hmm.
because
Yeah.
Steve knows them. They just happen to then like I hate to say just happens, like everything in comics like happens because like you're following it because of certain
But we
coincidences.
we
But
don't even
it
see her
just feels weird.
asking
There's no
Steve
like
to find magic users.
yeah, like it
Like the
feels so
last
weird that
issue
we
ended
jump
on
in
the
on this
spell.
issue. Yeah, it feels like it's so weird that we just jump in here and it's like, here are my witch friends that you need, and now they have all these weird ingredients, and we just kind of go through that. She gets her arm back, which is just like, why did she lose the
Right?
arm? And
Because
then
we had discussed I think a
yeah, I thought she was
theory,
just gonna stay without it forever.
and that the reason that she had it in the first place was so that like the covers and stuff would have her
Yeah,
with an arm, so it could be a big reveal.
yeah.
But like if she can get it back so easily, I feel like the sacrifice of the previous book doesn't
Yeah.
feel as extreme.
Well, that's all going to bring me to my big gripe. I feel like this issue kind of brought to light on like this series is I just think everything's too easy. Like I don't
Yeah.
know if there's really any like anything's been difficult for her yet. You know, it's like, oh yeah, her arm's back. She defeated this thing with like she. I thought the spell at the end of last issue was so clever. Like, okay,
Right?
that was such a cool way to do it. But then she literally just comes out, goes, make my sword bigger, and then defeats it this time. And I was like, that felt too easy.
So underwhelming. And like I thought that the deafening spell was super cool. We don't even really live in that though, because
No,
not
because these
only
characters aren't deafened.
exactly
Because
not only
yeah,
is the spell dissipating by the end of this issue, the time that we interact before that, she's like put up another spell so that they can talk to each other. It's like that.
yeah,
No, stop
yeah,
it.
yeah. Agreed. That it's just it was a little rough in that sense. Hayden Sherman's art is phenomenal. So when we actually get to like the action scene, I'm like, this is epic. I just wish there was more difficulty there. I
Right?
wish she had more tension or interesting interactions with different characters that isn't them just like fawning over her. Steve was really just like definition of just there this issue.
Mhm.
Honestly, I thought the Cersei Hecate thing was the most like actually interesting thing in this issue. So I
Agreed.
didn't care that it was 4 pages. I was like, at least this is like tension. At least there's something here.
Mhm.
And like it really was. And again, I like the action. I feel like we spent too much time with these witches who did not matter in the book
Yeah,
up until this point. I say witches. Only the one was a witch. The other one's a
but
private
still,
investigator.
but still.
And we just spent so much time with these characters who were not set up, who I'm worried we're never going to see again after this. And this was just like
I can't
for this
imagine that's
issue.
the case.
Well, I mean, we didn't end up seeing Cheetah in this issue after the setup last issue, so I'm a little concerned.
Ugh.
I like
Yeah.
a lot of what this book is doing. It has such good vibes. It's such a
Right?
distinctive Wonder Woman. Let her struggle a little bit more, please.
Right? And one thing that I want to hit on is I love every component of this book that where they're like, look at this cool thing, and I'm like, yes, cool thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, do I not get more of that? Like, the magic
Yeah.
is such a good example of that for me, where the aesthetics of this magic is so cool. Like the kind of potions, the kind of like fires and stuff, the way that the rituals we've seen work, so cool. But then I feel like there's not a lot of world building with the magic. And I feel like in this absolute universe where you, as the Wonder Woman book writer, have the kind of green light to be in charge of what magic looks like in the absolute
Yeah.
universe, it just feels like we're getting a little bit of a fumble. Like this isn't it doesn't feel like she's creating magic that will be able to extrapolate out into the universe. Like this is not a type of magic where I'm like, oh, it makes sense to me that this is the same force that eventually like Zatanna will use or like
Yeah.
Constantine.
The other thing is like I feel like they have a very interesting thing that like is built up with some of the spells with like they require like sacrifice and stuff, and then she'll just randomly do something like enlarging his sword with like nothing, and I'm
Yeah.
like, what? No, you have to lose your arm to bring Steve back. You needed pints of blood to bring your arm back. Like,
Which
that's cool. These things
also-
have costs.
They didn't show us the cost of the pints of blood, and that really upset me
They
personally.
did, but I was like, at least that one had, like, at least that was there.
Yes.
But then, like, you just, the big thing to actually defeat this, monster, you just enlarge your sword, and that costs you nothing. Like, the other spells I got, she had, like, existing potions, so I believe that she paid the cost, like, previously, when she, like, made it. But she just, like, does this little hand ritual thing with the sword, and it gets big, and I'm like, what do you mean?
And not just big, it becomes the size of a skyscraper.
Yeah, where was the cost?
If you could do that before, why didn't you do that before?
That's also true. Well, I guess she needed the second arm, was the vibe.
Well, she had her second arm last time she fought the Tetracide.
No, she never actually had her second arm. She had a fake holographic second arm. Remember? There was like an illusion thing.
I thought that was like a real second arm for her, and then that was destroyed by the Tetracide, and then she was like, doing the same ritual again.
I don't think it's the same ritual again. I think this is like real arm. That was like magic fake arm.
Interesting.
I don't know.
In any case,
unclear.
Unclear. But she did thwart her supervillain.
That's why I'm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm hoping that we can get, especially now, like when the government's going after, I'm hoping that we can start to maybe get a little bit more nuance to some of these things. I'm really hoping that once Cheetah's involved, that's going to be a way more nuanced character. It'll like mix things up, fruity things up a little bit, maybe. Because weirdly, despite this being a Wonder Woman from Hell, she's still portrayed as like this like perfectly moral character. I want things to
which is like fine
money.
To me, but I feel like she should have some. Like, even if people, like, immediately think she has rancid vibes because she, like, smells like hell. Like, that would be something. There's nothing when
she clearly is extremely willing to kill. If that, like, off-put normal civilians of the fact that she's just, like, going around ready to, like, murder, ready to, deafen people. Like, she's so willing to just do what it takes. Like, show me the people that are not chill with that, Yeah.
But she thwarted her supervillain this month, and she appeared, so that's going to be 16 points to Katie, and none for Hades, unfortunately.
No, none for Hades. I came kind of close with Hecate. And,
you did. Again, much closer than I would have thought.
Yeah, I know. I was damn. Yeah. But in any case, we got one more book here.
It
Katie,
is
you want to take
Superman
us on
time.
an absolutely super journey?
Yeah. I'm gonna ignore what you just said and just jump into
remember the creative team at the top.
Thank you. I was about to forget it. This is Jason Aaron and Rafa Sandoval. Jason Aaron, obviously, on the script, and Rafa Sandoval being our artist for this book. We begin with Agent Lane on the hunt for Superman. Too bad for the bot. Agent Lane was on its team last week, and she had more to do this week. So, she's got some staying power, as you would kind of hope for a Lois in a Superman universe.
You would expect.
Yeah. After her encounter with Kal-El in Brazil, Lois is determined to speak to Superman before Lazarus can bring their full might down on him. She interviews everyone she can find who has interacted with him, but she's still coming up with nothing. After refusing her security detail from Lazarus, she gets a call from her father, Dear General Lane, who immediately is roasting her for kind of stepping out of line and not being a good soldier. Which, fair coming from General Lane as Lois is going on her kind of personal journey. So we get to see that there's some tension happening there.
Can we talk about his like crazy wheelchair and cyborg legs?
Yeah. So General Lane seems to have lost his legs. Lois makes a possibly sassy remark about him being retired, which immediately spurs him to anger. And he taps his little keyboard on his chair, and it brings out mechanical legs for him to affix. So it seems that he does have some sort of prosthetic going on. Not even seems, he does. Which, importantly, I think means that he could be a threat later. And these are specifically made by Lazarus as well. So he is he's someone to keep an eye out for. But then we also check in with Christopher Smith of the Peacemakers, our main Peacemaker. And Jay, I believe that you specifically decided that you
Yes,
were talking about Chris Smith.
Yeah, but he's not in my lineup this week, regardless. But yes, because we didn't like the idea of entities in general, but it was just based on the way that we draft and all that.
Yeah,
Chris Smith makes the most sense as the Peacemaker for our drafting purposes.
Yeah, but we check in with him as he is he's going to therapy. They call it therapy. Where he's in kind of the same setup where we saw Lois when she was doing her report, and like the Brainiac system had changed around everything that she wrote.
Yeah.
And as he's trying to, work through the emotions of the fact that he wanted to kill a bunch of civilians, the Brainiac program is rewriting that as well to be like, oh, you did nothing wrong. Oh, your Peacemaker training made you save lives.
I feel like we need to importantly note the like little cute Peacemaker cartoon that Chris
Brainiac
is looking
cartoon?
at throughout this the Brainiac, the little Brainiac clip art thing.
It's like a little emoji
Chris is talking to,
which is so phenomenal. Love that so much. And my favorite part of this is we get a shot of Brainiac being the one to be speaking to him, so it's not coming out of, it's not coming out of a program. It's Brainiac responding to this. And you see Peacemaker yelling, I need to talk to a real person, not just some algorithm. And seeing that on the page where Brainiac is like something there hooked up to all of his wires is so spooky. I think it does such a good job of, really emphasizing the kind of evil that Brainiac is. And I found that to be just a really foreboding panel and a very fortuitous one because it got me a point.
It got you a point, and that is the only non-main character that shows up in in the 3 issues this week, which is wild.
It is bonkers. But Brainiac immediately sends Chris back out to duty alongside Lois. He's coincidentally going to Lois's station, and very importantly, he's like begs not to go, which I think is a really great character beat for him. Like, he's scared of what's going on in his head. And
there's something a little broken in this man.
Yeah, which we will see even more later. Then we cut back to where Lois is on the hunt for Superman. Again, she's trying to find anyone who has like ever talked to him so that she can get a sense of where he might be. And we find that she has a follower, a stalker in the midst, who she immediately one-ups because she's Agent Lane. And I love that as like a kind of badass character beat where we think that she's being followed and then she ends up, popping out of an alley with a gun up to his head. And lo and behold, a mop of red hair. It's gotta be Jimmy Olsen. Immediately, Jimmy tries to be like, hey, it's not what you think. I'm not gonna try to kill you. And Lois is not really opening to hearing what he has to say. He reveals that he is, in fact, a part of the Omega Men. And then does something real rad. He's got this like little mask that comes up over his eyes to shield him. And then he basically flashbangs Lois. Or I guess not bangs, because then he talks too. I'm not going to say he flashes Lois, though. But he disorients her, he blinds her.
Why does flashbang... why does flashbang mean that he can't talk to her?
Doesn't a flashbang also normally have a bang, which then has your ears ringing, or have video games lied to me?
I mean, that's just like any explosive. Like, I think the flashbang thing is the blinding light.
Okay, and fair enough.
In like comics and entertainment, we pretend that guns and explosives don't make noises that blow out your eardrums.
Fair enough. Look, Lois is wearing earplugs, it's fine. We can see directly into her ear on the next one, and I don't see a plug, but I think they just forgot to color it. That's okay.
Oh, they're deep in there.
That's right. Lazarus issued brain earplugs.
Yeah, Brainiac can do that.
He can do that. But Jimmy blinds Lois, and Lois immediately starts kicking his ass because she's like, you think I don't know how to fight blind? What the fuck? I'm like a Lazarus agent, which is super cool. I love Lois. She fully kicks Jimmy's ass as he tries to tell her that Lazarus is like spouting propaganda and that he needs, that he wants her to, open her eyes to all of it because she's too smart for this. And then the blindness wears off and their guns are pointed at each other, and it's a great little moment. He gives her a final kind of tip, because the rest of the Omega Men are coming, instead of shooting her, he tells her to run. But then the Omega Men do appear. Jimmy tries to calm them down because he, much like Lois wanting to reach out to Superman, he wants to reach out to her. But Omega Prime is not about to let that happen. The gun. I thought you were about to say something. I'm sorry. The gunfire draws in all of the peacemakers, all of the present peacemakers, and they immediately start, busting through the entire town. Prime and Lois get into a bit of a tiff, where Primus, rather, reveals, or rather implies, that she's the one who cut off Lois's dad's legs, which is metal as hell. Jimmy is yet again trying to get in the way. My poor boy. He's doing his best. But the commotion also draws out the Superman. We love to see it. Hello, Superman. That is an appearance.
His arrival, page, and then it's just so good. The visuals of him appearing are gorgeous in these 2 pages.
Because it's this absolute Superman thing of the cape and the suit being this kind of dust, nanoparticle thing. Yeah. And so there's this cloud of red dust as he comes in. And you can see it surrounding everyone. And then he kind of just appears within that. And it's super, super cool. And then he gets a rad superhero landing. Absolutely just swats aside Primus so that he can tell Lois to stop looking for him. Lois, in very, very hypocritical fashion, has basically the same conversation she just had with Jimmy, but with her in Jimmy's shoes. Be like, I'll talk to you. Just let me talk to you so I can tell you, and convince you. And Superman's like, nah. The peacemakers arrive. Chris, specifically, this line is so good. Shouts at Superman. He's like, remember me, pal? And Superman starts to use his freeze breath and just says, no. And oh my god, I would also go to Brainiac therapy if my enemy said that during a fight.
Katie wants to murder civilians. Look, that's where we've landed.
That's where we've landed.
It's a wild thing because they each turn into prisms of they're just frozen solid. This Superman does not fucking care.
Mm-mm. I mean, they're the peacemakers. They're doing ill. But Jimmy, we get a cute little moment where Jimmy uses his phone to take a picture of Superman as a little kind of Jimmy Olsen nod. Lois absolutely tears apart the peacemakers. She calls them popsicle brains, which is it's kind of mean. They just got beat by Superman. Who were they supposed to win, Lois?
She also says that she hopes that they're in pain.
Well, she clearly doesn't like the peacemakers. I kind of jumped over it earlier, but the opening action scene of the book is Lois beating the shit out of a peacemaker who steps out of line and stabs people for fun, who isn't actually protecting the peace, and she breaks his hand. So Lois has no love for the peacemakers. Yeah, his stabbing hand. Jimmy and the rest of the Omega Men escape, with Jimmy yet again trying to convince Primus that...
quickly, mob fight 1 for Superman against the Peacemakers.
Yes, mob fight 1 for Superman. Good job, Superman. Who would have thought Superman can win? But again, Jimmy is going down this kind of Lois can be changed, and Primus is like, no, we don't need her. And Superman also isn't interested in joining the Omega Men, so things are tense. If the problem with Wonder Woman is that there's not enough tension between characters, Superman took it all. He's like, I'm gonna make every character hate everybody else.
Have a aggressive interaction with somebody.
Yeah.
This man is just constantly in conflict.
Then we have an interesting stinger at the end where we hear, peacemakers yelling for Smith to stand down and trying to restrain him, and they take his gun, and we see that he has gunned down an entire street of civilians, which is a wild image to end on here, because oh my god. Also, how did this happen? is my big thing.
Yeah, something's not right in that man.
Something's
He's
not right in that man.
broken. I do want to quickly actually zoom back there. Do you think do you think Superman swatting Omega Prime gives him a fight win as well?
I don't think so.
Okay, I won't. I
Like,
feel like
she's
based on what I feel like
she's
based on
specifically not trying to fight him. She's trying to recruit him.
Okay, I'll give you that's a fair. Okay, so I have filled in both the computer and my sheet. So if you want to fill in yours,
wonderful. I will fill mine.
Our final thoughts on Absolute Superman, though.
Yes.
While you do that.
Yeah, I mean, it was an action-packed issue. I feel like it's this. Looking at the series as a whole, it ping-pongs around so much.
Yeah.
Like, last issue was exclusively on Krypton. This issue was basically just a Lois issue. We're really not getting a lot of who Kal-El is today, which is a bit of a bummer because of the stinger at the end of the last issue, where we saw the reveal about Kent being in the hospital.
I mean, last issue being flashback was like by far the most Superman we got, like the most on his character that we had gotten. I think it's rough that we're 4 issues in and like it feels like just a lot of like it feels like we still don't really know what's going on. And like it's like it's very followable book. Like you know everything that's happened, but it's just like I don't really know what's going on in the world other than like generic injustice, you know?
Yeah.
Like I don't know what the Lazarus Corporation is like but really doing. They're everywhere apparently in like every country in the world.
Killing civilians everywhere.
Yeah. It's like I kind of want to know what's that about.
What I'm hoping, especially with the amount we got of Jimmy this issue, is that what we're gonna get is Lois defecting from Lazarus and Jimmy defecting from the Omega Men, and them essentially becoming like a trio. I think that would be a really fun way to do this book, especially with both of them being like, you know, kind of Jimmy less so, but essentially combat competent. Yeah, I feel like you don't get to see that alongside.
I was getting more like I am betting they're gonna work with the Omega Men. That's my.
That's fair.
I think we're gonna get Dead Lucky work with the the terrorists moment. We'll see how much they actually are, but they were willing to just straight up execute Lois. So clearly they're not like full
not
good
full
guys.
Good guys. Yeah. Yeah, so I think this is a really interesting issue. Not quite a Superman issue, which is a bit of a bummer.
Yeah, I just want more with him. Like he's not the character where I think it's cool when he's not being focused on. Like it's not a Batman thing where it's like it's kind of cool just seeing how other people react.
Right.
Like Superman is, but it kind of starts to get old to some extent. Like I want to know what he's thinking, what he's doing, And
he's got kind of a similar thing to one of our qualms with Wonder Woman going on, where all of these people who have like interacted with Superman, we see all of them essentially giving testimony about how interacting with him once like changed their lives.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, but we don't get to see that part, and that's a bit of a bummer.
I think that's also like it's a different because with Wonder Woman, because we're following her, it's more of a stop telling us how great she is. We can just see it. With Superman, it's more of a like stop telling us and please show us, but like it makes sense that you're telling us because you're not showing us,
right.
Yeah. So it's inverted issues that like have the same symptom, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, it super does. So I think that takes us to did you have final thoughts on Superman?
It's a very like it's a solid. I think Superman's my main issue with Absolute Superman, and issue 3 I loved. I thought issue 3 was great. I'm just a little concerned that it's a little like surface level ideas, like if that makes sense, like where it's just like, okay, there's this big evil corporation, Superman, champion of the oppressed, but it's not really going into what either of those mean.
Yeah.
Or like what the actual, oppression is, how Superman's actually helping these people. It's just kind of very evil organization, this other organization that's trying to stop them, Superman, the good guy, Lois thinks maybe, she should be good too, but like, because we don't actually see what Lazarus is going on, like, we don't really get Lois's, torn nature. It's not, there's not enough explanation of each
Right.
of the facets of the story.
Because, like, so what we've seen with Lois feeling conflicted about Lazarus was the main impetus of that was the rewriting of her report.
Yeah.
But, like, if Lazarus is out here being so plainly evil that, like, they're gunning down civilians, if Lois, she's either somehow oblivious to that, which feels wild, or she like sees it as, you know, she believes the propaganda of whatever ends up being said about it, and that also feels a little rough to be like, okay, Lois is either ignorant, dumb, or complicit, and I'm curious to see
Yeah.
how they justify it, because she's not any of those things.
Yeah, it's I'm interested to see where we go with this. I also don't know where, because Absolute Superman doesn't have it written on it. Wonder Woman's the only one that has the arcs written on them. Batman, I just know from Scott Snyder constantly saying it ends, issue 7's the end of the first arc.
Which is interesting because issue 5 is the end of the Wonder Woman one.
Yeah.
So they're not trying to like match up really.
No, and Batman had the fill-in issue too, which is, you know, doing that. So that's what I'm saying. So I just don't know what Superman's gonna be.
Yeah. Don't know what the structure is supposed to look like.
It'll be closer to Batman, if anything, just based on the sense that it does not feel like we're close to the end of the arc.
Right.
But yeah, Wonder Woman's gonna wrap up the first arc next month. This is even really annoying for our fantasy thing, the fact that the arcs don't line up.
Like, I thought one of the reasons that they might have done the fill-in issue on Batman was if Scott had planned out like a 4-issue arc, but then the other ones both did 5, and he's like, oh well, year 1, issue 4.
Yeah, I think it's just purely. I think it was purely probably an art thing where they were like, Dragata's not going to be able to have the 3rd issue done in time, or a 4th issue rather done in time, so we're gonna stick this in here. But yeah, it's interesting. I think we're just purely gonna basically then go off of when like the new waves start for when our seasons end. It'll just be like week before the new wave starts, the end of this season. When the new wave starts, we'll do the 2nd season. When the 3rd wave starts, we'll end the 2nd season and do the 3rd, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. But that's all, you know, in the future. Let's jump to the present. Do you want to pull up our
I will share. Do you see that?
Yes, I do.
I should probably make it that's probably a better shape for our purposes.
Nice.
So we're gonna start on the bot here. So the bot's total for this week is only 9 points. Bot, you did kind of bad.
Yeah. I mean, only one of the bots.
It's actually 1 point better than what they did last week.
There you go. So that's pretty wacky. That's pretty wacky that the bot did so poorly. Because the bot started off really strong. But I think by nature of the way that the bot's bench works, it makes it rough.
It does.
Do you have thoughts on who the bots next week people should be?
Hero should be Jimmy Olsen, right? I feel like that's pretty.
I think that makes sense. I think
he feels like the most logical hero for me. Villain is kind of tough, honestly.
We could go with Hecate.
I don't know that Hecate's like...
She's not being very benevolent at the moment.
I don't know. Hecate didn't go... I don't know that... I'm trying not to screw the bot over after how bad we've heard from him.
That's fair.
I'm trying to do something that could actually...
have any good villains for them?
I guess the Batman issue is basically
could go with Joker.
Not useful because it was put up...
Oh, but Joker wasn't in the issue, and that's one of the...
Yeah, and Joker was used earlier, so it feels rough.
Yeah.
I guess, you're probably right. That's probably just what it is. It's probably just...
Unless we want to give him, like, General Lane or something, but that feels even less likely to materialize.
Yeah, I think Hecate's... I think you're right. I had to think it through for a second.
That's fair.
But I do. I think you're right. So my total for this week is going to be 12. I think we had already confirmed that we were both in agreement with the 12. So that's going to put me up to 45 as my total, surpassing the bot by 1 point. And we will jump now to Katie.
All right. Yeah, my total for the week is 17. That tetracide kill really paying off. So my running total is 51.
A commanding lead. A little bit of, I think, the biggest lead so far.
Maybe so, but I think that Batman might have the most staying power here.
Yeah, man has those mob fights for days,
Yeah,
multiple one
yeah.
fights per issue. Man is a beast. I think certainly in terms of single character, he probably has the most points by far now because
Absolutely.
I'm still close in here, and the vast majority of my points have almost all come from Batman.
Yeah, and he also has the benefit of our dear boy Scott Snyder fitting so much story into any given issue.
Yes,
Like
they
we're
are
looking at
dense.
Wonder Woman, and this entire 4-issue like run has been over the course of like a couple hours with a
Yeah.
couple of flashbacks.
Do you want to hit the rest of your team here? Tell us who you're
Yes.
running for week or month 5. We've been running.
Oh my
week.
god! No wonder we keep fucking ourselves up. For
Yeah.
week 5, I am going to. I still think that Jim Gordon is going to have a kind of comeback moment. Until he's
Okay.
out of the hospital, I still think he's going to
Who
have
is your-
a hospital fight.
You're the one, Sapalta, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
so that's
yeah,
not,
yeah.
That's not overly overly useful.
And I do think
Black Mask or Brainiac.
that Black Mask has a
You got a few
reckoning coming.
until the end of the arc. You're not.
I
We're
was
not
gonna
quite
say,
there yet.
but if the arc is going to be 7 issues,
Yeah.
there's still a lot of room. I'm
Yeah.
gonna go with Black Mask this
Okay.
month. Yeah. So we'll
All right.
we'll risk it for the biscuit.
Okay, I
I'm
respect
gonna hope
it. I
that this
respect it.
isn't the end of his arc for the Joker to come in for the last
So we're going-
couple.
We're going Batman. We're gonna run it back with Alfred. I feel good about Alfred. You know, he's
They're more or
he's a
less
good.
on the same side here.
Yeah.
Though I guess
And then,
the end of
this
the
is
end
the
of the
question.
previous Batman did have them at odds. They could have another fight as
It could hurt me there,
it's
but we're
more
gonna.
fun to play him.
Yeah. I'm gonna run with him. I don't want to run double characters that might not show up because I am gonna stick with Hades just because I don't think one Christopher Smith is gonna be getting a lot of wins right now. He seems like he's on his downward spiral.
He could be, but
currently.
that could
He
be
is
that
murdering
he's getting
civilians.
a lot of
He's
civilian
getting
murder.
civilians murdered, yeah. But
Yeah.
I feel like this issue was a good example. He got the 3. He would have gotten the 3 points for civilians murdered,
Mhm.
but he would have also lost 5 points for losing a fight to Superman. So
That's fair, but the question is Superman going to be around for his fights, or is he
don't
going to
know.
get the room to murder?
I don't know, but that's gonna be. I'm gonna end the screen share there because I think
All right.
that's everything we had to show people.
Perfect. Thanks so much for
but-
sticking around for month 4
Week.
of our Absolute Universe
It's all weeks. Everything's a week.
recap. It's all
You
weeks.
try
It's
hard
all
enough.
weeks. We may be getting closer to Wave 2. Was that going to be in the summer? Do you remember?
I want to say it's like May or something like that. I think
We're getting
I don't know.
close.
That's a good question. I will quickly look if you want to tell people
No,
other stuff we've
yeah.
uploaded because I'm gonna look at when.
So every Wednesday we have our regularly scheduled programming here on the Script Heroes podcast, where we talk about our pull list reviews from the week. We talk about comic book news from the industry, and we talk about all things writing comics in the Creator Corner on our show. We also have bonus episodes every weekend of the month. Last week we talked about a book called No Holds Barred, B-A-R-D, about Shakespeare, but what if he was also a little bit Batman? It was a wild, strange Saturday for us, which is saying something, because the strange Saturday is normally quite strange.
Yeah.
And then Go ahead.
It's good that this was looked up because this is something that I want to put in this. That we are actually going into the finale month because April is going to be the first of the new wave. So this will be the end of season 1. We will find out who our champion is.
That's going to be rough if Batman doesn't get his thwarting done. Because
It's going to be rough. It's going to be rough, yeah.
We'll see. We'll see.
Uneven there. But we will then go into... We're going to decide if we're going to let each other, like, keep a character or anything like that. But we will do either a shake-up or a redraft with the new characters involved as well. And which probably actually means that we'll probably have 2 absolute things next month. Maybe I don't know how we're gonna handle the draft. Maybe we'll just do the draft at the end of next week's video or next month's video,
or maybe we'll do a bonus.
Bonus.
But
in any case, join us next month to see who the champion of the first ever comic book fantasy football League is.
Team
Katie's out to a
Wonderland!
commanding lead. I felt much better when I thought I was going to have multiple weeks to make up that gap.
Alas.
But it's going to be just this one. But in any case, hope to see you next week. Comic Geeks.